Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Lost Bits right here on TetraBitGaming, the series where we explore the scrapped, unused, and unseen content in video games. With the recent release of Fallout 76, I thought it might be the perfect opportunity to revisit one of my all-time favorite games, Fallout 3, and check out its unused and unseen content. Also, since I was recently in Washington DC myself, it was really cool to revisit some of the monuments in the game to see how they stack up against the real thing. If you've been around the channel for a while, you may remember that I actually used to make some Fallout lore videos like forever ago. Now for this Lost Bits video, I will only be covering the base game itself, but if there is enough interest, I will certainly make another video covering the game's DLC as well. Anywho, with all of that said, go grab some stim packs, it's time to find some Lost Bits. Alrighty, let's start things off with some unused audio, shall we? First is an unused holotape simply known as Test Holotape.
Finally, someone with a modicum of civility and common sense. I represent certain interests, and those interests view this town, this megaton, as a blight on a burgeoning urban landscape. You have no connections here, no interest in this cesspool's affairs or fate. You could assist us in erasing this little accident off the map.
As you heard, this test holotape is related to the Power of the Atom quest, in which you have to make the choice between disarming the nuke stuck in the middle of Megaton, or detonating it.
Kaboom!
Next up is an entire scrapped radio station. Tenpenny Tower Radio was going to be another radio station the player could listen to, sponsored by This Old Fart. Interestingly, several audio files from this cut station are still found left over in the game.
Thank you for listening to Tenpenny Tower Radio Service, brought to you by Alistair Tenpenny. This is Tenpenny Tower Radio. You're listening to Tenpenny Tower Radio, the sound of progress. This is Tenpenny Tower Radio, music and inspiring talk for forward-thinking people.
The Tenpenny Tower radio station would also feature several proverbs which were to be called Tenpenny Truisms.
And now it's time for another tenpenny truism. And now a tenpenny truism. The poor man wishes for prosperity. The rich man makes his own. We must turn our thoughts away from that which is imperfect and impure. On that vast plain of dust we will raise new cities, and like the phoenix, spread the wings of new life and take flight. Never wonder for a moment if you're worthy of the benefits you possess. Rather wonder always if you have utilized them to their fullest. All men were created equal. Not all men remain so. The beggar must lay down his cup, for a man needs both hands to grasp the future. Let us release our fears of the past into our hopes for the future. The poor man wonders why he is poor. The rich man knows why he is rich.
So it turns out that Fallout 3 also has a handful of quests that were scrapped. The first of these quests would have been known as Infiltration, which would have had the player enter Rivet City through an underwater diving hatch and obtain a prototype power source to bring back to Scribe Rothschild at the Brotherhood of Steel base at the Citadel. Since the quest ID is between the American Dream and Take It Back main quests, it is likely that this quest was intended to take place between them as well. The next unused quest is listed as Last Rites. Not much is known about this quest as no objectives were left over, but it is believed that it was the basis of the Broken Steel DLC. The last completely scrapped quest is simply known as MS-07, which would have apparently involved Sarah Lyons from the Brotherhood of Steel. Again, not much is known about this quest since basically all traces of it are removed. All that is left is this strange, also unused disc that would have served some purpose in this quest. Although not a completely unused quest, there is a scrapped step that would have appeared in the Wasteland Survival Guide side quest. This extra step would have had the player actually print a copy of the survival guide at the Hubris Comics publishing building and then return it to Moira, who apparently at this stage in development was known as Leia. The Wasteland Survival Guide quest is already pretty long as it is, so I can kinda see why the developers decided to remove this step. And next up, let's have a look at some of the more interesting characters and creatures that were cut from Fallout 3. Starting with the cut characters, we have a Gary template that is sporting your in-game dad's Vault 101 jumpsuit instead of the Vault 108 one that they normally wear. Next is this guy, who goes by the name Littletoe. He would have had a minor role in the Replicated Man quest in which the player has to search for a missing synth. Similarly, there is Trigger, who was also associated with Littletoe and the Replicated Man side quest. The Johnsons are scrapped NPCs that would have resided in Andale and still have some scripting in which they interact with the other residents there. Also unused, we have Meat, Paladin Northup, Lucy West's father, who ended up appearing in the game as a decrepit corpse, Stacy, and this guy known as Sleeping Guy. I wonder how they came up with that one. We'll get back to him later. There are also 6 generic templates for hunter NPCs meant for Rock Creek Caverns. The next character, Professor Malleus, wasn't cut from Fallout 3, but he is normally never seen, and as such, this model for him is never used. Now, if you don't remember, Professor Malleus was the Vault 92 scientist that was in charge of the Vault 92 experiment, in which low-frequency white noises were played through the Vault speakers to try and brainwash the Vault's dwellers. Although there is no model left for him, there is also a scrapped NPC known just as O'Grady. Not much is known about what his purpose would have been, but he would have been some sort of guard, and he would have used a unique police baton weapon known as O'Grady's Peacemaker. And now let's go over some of the unused creatures and robots. First is Clancy, a uniquely named centaur which would have apparently had some sort of role in the Wasteland Survival Guide quest. There is also an unused colored version of the dog that is actually your father in the Tranquility Lane simulation. Since the simulation part of the game uses a monochromatic color scheme, it makes sense why this version is left unused. Although these aren't found in the game's files, in the official Fallout 3 art book, conceptual art for 3 unused floater variations can be seen. The Lamprey, Manowar Tendril, and Needletooth floater variations are all absolute nightmare fuel. Now, as far as unused robots go, there is an unused generic Mr. Handy variant known as Mr. Mulberry, as well as several unique versions of some of the other robots, such as Brotherhood of Steel and Enclave Robobrains and Sentrybots, as well as some other unique variants of iBots and Mr. Gutsies. Okay, so there are a lot of unused weapons, armor, clothing, and other items in Fallout 3. So in the interest of time, I will only go over some of the ones that I find more interesting. If you are interested in seeing the rest, follow the links to my sources in the description. For unused clothing and armor, there is the Blast-Off space helmet, a pair of female and male night vision goggles, pink T-45D power armor, jumpsuits for Vault 87 and 95, and male and female versions of a Wasteland scout hat. Then, as far as unused and unobtainable weapons go, although most are just uniquely named variations that are visually identical to other weapons in the game, there are a few original ones that are completely unseen. For example, first is the Cryolator. This weapon later made its debut in Fallout 4, where its design was completely revamped. Also scrapped are 2 Molotov cocktail variants. One using a bottle of whiskey, and the other a Nuka cocktail, which would have used a bottle of Nuka-Cola Quantum. A lighter would have been used to light both of these, and it was also scrapped from the game. The lighter would have used this texture, which was later reused in the lighter in Fallout New Vegas, which is used to light the sticks of dynamite. Other unused miscellaneous items include fly meat, a first aid kit, as well as super stim packs, which were again later seen in Fallout New Vegas. Furthermore, Fallout 3 also has several projectiles that are never used. These projectiles include flaming spit from an ant queen, a crossbow bolt, a boulder, and a vicious dog? Yep, thanks to Phil, we can shoot dogs out of a gun. Beautiful. And now onto Fallout 3's unused graphics, which again, there are a lot of. First up are several unused Pip-Boy images featuring Vault Boy. These include images for carry weight, critical chance, action points, damage resistance, healing rate, HP, unarmed damage, poison resistance, radiation resistance, and Vault Boy wearing a jumpsuit from Vault 95 and 100. It is possible that these vaults, or at least the jumpsuits, may have been planned to be seen in this game. So far, only Vault 95 has been playable, but in Fallout 4. There is also an unused image for the Light Step perk, which originally had bear traps. These bear traps were changed to landmines in the final release. Throwing was also going to be a skill in Fallout 3 that was scrapped and reworked into the explosive skill. Its Vault Boy image can still be found in the game. Other unused Pip-Boy images are of several of the game's weapons, a mini nuke, a museum token, a box of food, night vision goggles, and a super stim pack. Fallout 3 also has several unused image notes. One of the Arlington Library, a bloody sketch that would be found in the Dunwich building, Megaton's nuke, the playground in Minefield, a Mirelurk spawning pod, and the Galaxy News radio station, which is, for whatever reason, mistakenly referenced as Tenpenny Tower. Fallout 3 also has several world objects that were cut. These include unused street signs, signs meant to be used in the Citadel, unused metro signs, a bank sign, signs for a Bureau of Special Affairs and a Center for Extra-Typical Research, a fusion generator, a violin case for the Soil Stradivarius, ya boy Liberty Prime on a crane, a photo of the player's parents, a photo of Project Purity, a photo of Tranquility Lane, pre- and post-war versions of some kind of mower with their remote controllers, a recycler, a high-resolution TV, several bits of unused Raider graffiti, and the Emancipation Proclamation. Ooh, that was a long sentence. There are, of course, a few more cut world objects, but these are the ones that I thought were the most interesting. And lastly, for the unused graphics, there is an unused load screen, which sounds like Brotherhood of Steel propaganda, and a satellite photo of Washington, D.C. with Fallout 3's map overlaid, I guess to show how much of the area is covered in the game. Moving along now to my favorite part of this series, unused test rooms. And thankfully, Fallout 3 has quite a few for us to explore. As with the other stuff, I'll only go over the more interesting test rooms, as some of them it's too dark to see in, and others are pretty basic and were likely just used to copy and paste into other areas, like these bathrooms, for example. First up is a room listed as Warehouse Robots. It basically just houses a Mr. Gutsy and several Protectron variants to see how they would function and respond to the player holding an employee or a military ID and such. Similarly, the Warehouse Traps room is a collection room that was probably used to test the traps in the game. Tripwire traps, hanging grenades, trapdoors, baby carriage explosive traps, baseball launchers, electrocuted toilets, you name it, this place has got it. Also, the trapdoor leads you down to an empty area that reminds me of some of the abandoned vaults in this game. There's even a nice death claw that we can play with. Alright. Next is Megaton Abandoned House Dummy Cell, which, just like the name suggests, is a stripped down version of the house the player can receive in Megaton. Really cool early development stage test map, but unfortunately not much else to see here. I was curious to see just how much it changed, so here's how it compares to the final version. Random Encounters is a rather small room that is apparently used for spawning in random encounter NPCs in the game. Interestingly though, for some reason, the gene projection machine seen in the intro of the game when creating your character can be seen floating in the middle. Next up are several similar looking rooms that contain a few characters likely used to test how they interact with each other. There's a room with just a Mr. Gutsy, one with some rad roaches and an assertive wastelander corpse, and one with some super mutants and their captive. Oddly, for some reason, each of these rooms has a door. That leads to nowhere. Real nice. Test QA Hugh Lai is named after one of the character artists for Fallout 3 and contains numerous NPCs. Adults, kids, ghouls, raiders, they're all here. I honestly don't know if I can handle this much dominance asserted on me. Similar to the last room, there are also 2 rooms, one for males and one for females, which contain an NPC for each of the possible hairstyles in the game. And for some reason, all of the females are wearing party hats. So, you come here often? Fine, didn't want to talk to you anyway. Next are 2 areas probably made by Grant Suthers, the special effects and gore artist. Yup, gore artist is on someone's resume. Anyways, the first of these unused maps is known as T Grant Int, and it features several interior effects. These effects include several lighting techniques, effects of a gas leak in a room, a glowing one, and a dismembered T-posing super mutant? The developer memes in Fallout 3 were way ahead of their time. The other Grant Suthers area is known as T Grant World, and in contrast to the previous map, this one tests some outdoor effects. Here we can see some circling lighting and fire effects, smoke from a crater, and this force field. Just outside the city ruins, there's also a vertibird as well as some sort of 3D warning exclamation mark thing. I'm really curious as to what this was used for, so if you know what it is, please let me know. Kit Office is next, and it's basically just a large unfinished office building interior. It unfortunately can't be fully explored since the area boundaries are too small, and Fallout 3 does this stupid thing that if you get to the boundary, you get teleported back to the spawn. It's almost as if they didn't want the boundaries to be broken. I sure hope you aren't getting tired of these test rooms yet, because we have a few more to go. I said we'd talk more about the Sleeping Guy NPC earlier, so let's get back to him. Sleeping Guy is actually found snoozing in an unused test map known as Test QA Items. This area has several mailboxes which contain almost every item in the game, from weapons, armor, notes, ammo, and more. So if you're looking for a certain item or weapon, this is your best place to check. There are also several other locked mailboxes, probably used to test the game's lockpicking mechanic, as well as several computer terminals, again, likely used for testing the game's hacking mechanic. This area also has a pile of radioactive waste, several mines scattered on the floor, as well as some stop signs, for some reason. And yes, Sleeping Guy. All he really does is sleep, wake up, walk to the other bed, and go back to sleep. Living the dream. Up next is QA World Origin, which is probably the largest unused test room that I have come across so far. When loading in, you start in an otherwise unseen area in the middle of a burnt out forest. This area has a few NPCs that walk around, as well as some Mirelurks and Yaoguais. There is also a small building which can be approached, which is home to a test merchant which you can still interact with. And as big as this immediate area is, if we clip through where we normally would be stopped, an even larger Washington DC landscape can be seen and explored. Oddly, for some reason though, the ground is way higher than it normally is, so something like the Jefferson Memorial can't be normally seen. And the last interesting unused area is an early version of Vault 101 that can still be accessed. You start off in an isolated small room, so to access the rest of this area you have to disable collision and fly through the walls. There's nothing all too crazy in this beta vault except that we can see that some of the rooms are empty or even incomplete. And before ending this video, there are 2 more interesting things that I want to go over. With the console commands on the PC version, several cool things can be played around with and tested, like turning off collision, flying around, and God mode, where you have unlimited ammo and can't be hurt. When turning collision off and killing an enemy, something super strange happens. As soon as they die, their body just goes whack and stretches like Mr. Fantastic. Or better yet, something from the movie The Thing. I have no idea what causes this or what determines the position they end up in, but it's honestly one of the most disturbing things I have ever seen in a video game. On a brighter note, there is some dialogue that is unseen under normal circumstance. This can be accessed by using console commands to fly up to the megaton gate guard known as Stockholm. Since it is normally almost impossible to get up here without cheating or being a platforming master, after complaining that you are distracting him from being on the lookout for raiders, he will wonder and ask how you managed to get up there. A nice little Easter egg the developers left in for players curious enough to get up here. While we're up here in Megaton, if you manage to clip inside the area, you'll notice that it does match up with the actual Megaton area decently well, although the buildings are much less detailed. Since the world of Fallout 3 is so vast, I won't have time to explore more of the unseen areas in this video, but if you would like me to explore more of them, let me know down in the comments, and also let me know which areas you would like me to look into. And with that concludes this Lost Bits video on Fallout 3, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to check out some of my other Lost Bits videos by clicking on the card right here. If you're new here and would like to stay even more up to date with me and the channel, be sure to subscribe here, as well as swing by my other social media things, which will all be linked in the description below. But as always guys, thank you all so much for watching today and for all of your amazing support, and I will see you in a bit.